A few minutes late. The board just wanted to take time on this beautiful day and recognize our superintendent and thank him for the years that he has put here in Danbury. And we would certainly like to thank Dr. Glass. Where are you?
They got recognized in absentia.
And we would like to thank Dr. Glass for all the time that he has dedicated to the district, and I know it's been over 10 years. We had a little reception this afternoon thanking them because a lot of time we get mixed up in doing whatever we need to do for the children of this city, and we don't often say thank you. So to Dr. Sam, on behalf of the board, we would certainly like to say thank you. You committed to us for 5 years, and we want to thank you for keeping that commitment. To Dr. Glass, we certainly want to thank you. You've been with us for over 14 years, and I can speak for just about, I'm speaking on behalf of the board. We certainly love you, and thank you for all your service.
Well, feelings mutual. Thank you all very much. So sweet. Is there anyone for public participation tonight? Please, going once.
Can we all stand for the pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're so happy this is our last this season.
Any reason to have a party?
We might be a little off today, but we're excited. Now I'm going to ask for the roll call.
Alberts here. Chillian here. Cooper
Here.
Barkenhoff.
Here.
Black. Absent. Hawley.
Here.
Janelli.
Here.
Staken. Here. Taversack.
Here.
Franzilla.
Here.
All but one.
Thank you. Now we're going to move to the part of our agenda where we are going to have the recognition from our superintendent of schools, Dr. Tester.
Thank you very much, and thank you for before. It was just wonderful. Greatly appreciated. I'm excited to introduce our new personnel. Let me start with Joe, because you all know him anyway. Joe Martino. Joe is now our Director of Finance.
Region 12.
12 was actually the technology and the business manager there, and came to us in December when we finalized our interviews in November and started in January as the assistant to the finance director. What's his name?
Ed.
Oh, there he is.
Bill Sano.
It's something. And he's really impressed us. He's done a great job. And when the opportunity came to, as you know, we opened up the search again, decided to put his name in, and did wonderful. And the board acknowledged that, hired him last week in our executive session. Here today to say thank you. and congratulations, and we're looking forward to spending a long time with us.
The honor and the privilege. I'm very excited, to say the least. So,
We'll fix that.
Man, a few words, that's good. But real quick, Southbury, tell me,
I live in Southbury. I have a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old.
and you have a wife.
And wife, yes. Yes, yes.
I just checking. And her name?
Christine.
Christine. We love to meet her sometimes.
We'll bring the kids down, you know? My son can crawl under the tables.
Very much used to that. Congratulations.
Thank you, but look forward to it.
And next, Debbie Maylou-Peterson. As you know, we've been looking to replace our Director of Special Services. And I think we've sometimes, through misfortune, you find a fortune. You know, it's been very difficult for us to locate the right skill set of individuals that come in and start as a full director. But we think we've had a star among us, and we have an opportunity to have an Aspen program with Joyce for a year while Debbie eases into the program. So Joyce, why don't you talk
Sure.
about that?
We're very pleased, as Sal said, to have Deb Peterson transition into the position of Assistant Director of Special Services. Deb comes to Danbury after having taught in Stamford, Connecticut. She was an elementary teacher there, elementary special education. She taught at one of the RESC's Cooperative Education Services as a preschool teacher in Trumbull, then came to Danbury, was a high school special education teacher. She moved into one of our facilitator positions, and then from there went into the position of supervisor of secondary special education when Val Tracy took the position as assistant principal at Rogers Park Middle School a couple of years back, and now she's transitioning into this position. And so besides filling her position, as I had shared with the board at the executive session at the last meeting, you know, we had a plan in place to begin to look at internal candidates for succession purposes, and we filled Deb's position with Kelly Truchis, who was a special education teacher at King Street School, and then has been a facilitator at Rogers Park Middle School, and she's also done some elementary work too. And now she's filling in as secondary special education supervisor. We backfilled Kelly's position with a special education teacher at Great Plains School, Crystal Smith-Taft. Many of you may know her. She's a Danbury High School graduate, a Horde Scholarship Foundation winner. She's just an outstanding representation of our Danbury Public School system. Has been a teacher working with emotionally disturbed children at Great Plains School, and now is transitioning into the position of facilitator. And Deb's here with 2 of her 5 children.
Thank you. I'm very excited. I'm extremely excited to have Joyce yet another year to help me with the transition. I think it's going to be an amazing year for all of us and a great learning experience.
And this is Kate and Jake.
They are 9.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
And last, there's always an exception to the rule, particularly when it comes to athletics, I guess. And some years back, Chip Salvestrini decided to relocate and leave Connecticut and work in New York. But since then, since we had an opening in our athletic department, Chip was very interested to looking at us again, and we're very pleased that he did, and went through the interview process and was recommended as our AD. And I'm just so pleased that you're here tonight to reintroduce yourself to the new folks. Welcome back to those of us that know you, and say thank you for being here. We're looking forward to being with us again. Jeff?
Dr. Sal, the board, members of administration, I really appreciate and thrilled to have the opportunity to come back to a place that I found out that I love very much, being in another school district. And when this opportunity came up a month or so ago, I mean, I never thought I'd be sitting here a month later. So I really look forward to working with you again. I'm thrilled. I think Danbury has a wonderful, a lot of things to offer our athletes, our students, and we use athletics as a vehicle to pull the community together. And it's really great to be coming home, and I appreciate it. Look forward to working with each one of you. Thank you.
We will move on with our agenda. We don't have any public participation on the agenda tonight. There's no one that signed up. And before I close, is there anyone that would like to come before the board tonight? Before we move on to the, to get through the rest of the agenda, I certainly would like to personally, on behalf of the board, thank Sodexo and Barry, who I always call Barry. I don't know his last name, but he has such a nice personality. So whenever we call and ask him, he's always willing to help out. And Barry, I certainly would like to thank you on behalf of the board and Sodexo staff. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Now I need a motion on the consent calendar.
That the Board of Education approve the items on the consent calendar as recommended 12-118 through 12-121.
There's a motion on the floor. Motion been seconded by Sandy. Any question concerning the consent calendar? Being none, all in favor, could I hear aye? Aye. Opposed? Any abstention? Motion so carried. Dr. Say, I'm going to turn it over where you're going to talk.
Eileen Costello with her, she's here, and Jolene, she's here as well, right? And you got it. So we'd like to spend a little bit, a few minutes to talk about the readiness program. Come on up. So pleased that the school readiness program that we work hand in hand with the school system, not only in working with our youngsters, but in procuring grants and other things. And I think the impact has paid off. I think there's some evidence here that you're going to be very pleased about. I know you've heard a little bit about it, but with everything coming about with preschool and where we're going, I think it would be great to come tonight and spend a few minutes with you to tell you what they expect.
Good evening, I'm Janine Flanagan from Education Connection. We have been facilitating the work of the Danbury School Readiness Council since 1997 on behalf of the superintendent and the mayor, and we have lots of exciting things to share with you tonight in a very short amount of time, so I'm going to turn it right over to Eileen Costello, who's the coordinator.
Hello, everyone. I have some great news for today, just so you know. School readiness works. We just finished a 2-year data study that we tracked 391 children over the course of 2 years in 4 different areas: social and emotional, literacy, math, and physical. So we checked all these areas on the children, and we tracked them for 2 years prior to entering kindergarten. And what we found is that children from low income, ELL, didn't matter where they started, all the children were growing in the right direction. And Julian has a little flip charts to show you here. What we found in literacy, you'll see that there's 2 lines. One is the low-income children, and one is the over-income children. And the over-income children start out ahead of their peers when they first start in our program. But as you can see, as the lines move forward, the trajectories go up for both groups, to where we pretty much close the achievement gap. Our low-income children grow at a faster rate and catch up to their over-income peers. And that's the one in literacy. And we also have that same thing in math. It was a 0.2 differential when they were done. Our study was done by Dr. Peg Oliveira, who's out of Yale, and she works with the Graustein Foundation, who helped fund our project. Some of the other findings that we had, our English language learners come in behind their peers significantly, but over the course of 2 years in early childhood, they catch up with their peers, and again, the differential is extremely small by the time they're leaving. We've made them confident in their personal skills, their social skills, their academic skills, and all the children are ready when they leave us. The data study, as I said, tracked 391 children over 2 years. 55% were girls, 45% were boys, 78% of the children were low income, and over 60% were English language learners. Our school readiness program is extremely diverse in the fact that we're in 24 classrooms throughout Greater Danbury. We have classrooms at the YMCA in Bethel. We have classrooms at First Step Preschool up in New Fairfield, and we have it at 9 locations around the city, including Morris Street and Mill Ridge Family Resource Centers. We're at for-profit centers, non-profit centers, and what we do is we pretty much mix the Danbury children in other centers which they might not be able to afford. Everything is on a sliding fee scale, so it's open to all Danbury children ages 3 and 4. We do try to target more of the low-income children. Minimally 60% of the children in our program have to be low income, but it is open to middle income and above income families. And we found by mixing these two economic groups, the children grow at a faster rate. So we've had a lot of success. This is just a little bit. We have a small report for you. The reason we wanted to meet with you now and talk a little bit is that this report has caught the eye of the governor and the commissioner, and they'd like to have some more information on it. The tracking that we did, it was a growth over time study. It's not like a CMT where it's a one-time test. It was tracking children for 2 years, and we have seen some really great things, and it's mirroring what's going on. Middletown did a study similar to ours and had pretty much the same results. So now that they've had 2 communities doing the study and having the data done outside of our communities independently, they're very interested in what's going on. So we have these booklets prepared for you, and again, we have some more information on the English language learners as well as an insert for these booklets. But the thing I'd like to say is this was funded through the Danbury Promise for Children Partnership, which is founded through the Graustein Foundation, which gives significant money to our community for Danbury Children First and for the Promise for Children Partnership. And I have Caroline LaFleur here from the partnership to talk to you. Thank you.
Thanks,
I think was that fast enough? I said we have them on.
He gave me 5 minutes, 30 minutes into 5.
I'm glad we have it on tape, so we all can listen again. Thank you.
Hi, thanks Eileen, and I'm Caroline LaFleur. I'm the coordinator of Danbury's Promise for Children Partnership, and I'll be extremely brief. I don't know how many of you have heard of the Promise for Children Partnership. This is the community partnership focused on early childhood education. So much of what happens, how successful a child is when they reach the Danbury Public Schools depends on what happens before they get to the kindergarten door. And that's why we have a community partnership that's focused on young children and the early grades. We have everybody working together on strategies in 3 areas: health, parenting, and school readiness, early school success. So we bring together health providers, parents, the child care providers, really anybody who touches a young child's life that will have an impact on how well they will do in school and in life. And we've been working together for about 4 or 5 years now, and we're going to continue to have received funding for an additional 2 years. And we encourage you to get involved because, as I said, school success is so dependent. They're finding more and more the research depends on what happens in the early years. So we look to the schools for a strong partnership in this area. So we encourage people to join the partnership. I brought a little brochure that describes what we do. We've also just recently published a directory of services for families in the hopes that connecting people with services also will help prepare children for school. So please help yourself to the goodies I left at the table. Any questions?
Any questions for me?
What, as board members, can we do to help?
Well, I have a, if there's a little brochure here. I mean, I think it's important to support early childhood education. We need to advocate for more funding. There are 600 children on the waiting list for the school readiness program in Danbury. We need to try to advocate for more school readiness funding so that more kids can have the quality preschool, so they can have the experiences that Eileen's programs are able to give them. It's also really important to get the word out about how important early learning is to everybody, to businesses. We need resources, and we'd like to get more businesses involved. We'd like to get more people involved, to see why they should be involved in early childhood, both as employers and parents, and also for funding.
Do you need a $25,000 match?
Yes, we do need a $25,000 match to get money. The way Graustein has these community partnerships set up, they want to see an institutional type of match, so that the partnership will continue beyond when Graustein provides the funding. So, and that helps to bring more money into the community. So if we have a strong partnership, Graustein is willing to fund us in other ways, and opens up more opportunities with their partnership with Andy Casey. Things like that bring more money in for literacy programs. If they see we have a strong partnership, that makes us eligible for more grant funding, not only through them, but through other funders. More and more, these funders are looking for community collaboratives. They want to know that everybody in the community is on board with early childhood education and early education. So,
You mentioned a waiting list of approximately 600 more. Do you have the capacity to take, or do you have the resources to take additional students?
You know, this year, I think we're gonna be expanding by about 50 children. We're waiting to hear from the state what's gonna be our allotment. And we probably could have taken 120 this year. And I have 2 programs that are gonna be expanding. So the spaces are out there. The whole thing with school readiness, they have to meet quality standards in order for the state to agree to fund them. And I agree with that 100%. I'd rather put a child in a high-quality program instead of just sticking them anywhere. So we have programs that are in what's called the AFP, Accreditation Facilitation Project. Once they become accredited and they meet all the licensing accreditation standards, then they're eligible to take children. But we're very limited by the number of programs that were accredited when this first started. There were only a handful of programs. Now we're up to about 15 programs in our area. And again, we have families that work outside of Danbury that take their children closer to where they work. So we are looking outside of Danbury as well, but they will be for Danbury children.
Eileen, I think this question would be for you. You mentioned the commissioner and you mentioned the governor. To what end do you hope that they will become involved?
Well, they had originally, my 30 minutes that Sal gave me, that she took away, was a PowerPoint presentation, and they've both seen the PowerPoint presentation. And they were very interested and wanted more research, wanted to find out what else is going on in the state, where we have all the data on all the children. Because at the end, what it shows that in all the areas that we tracked, over 80% of the children met goal or were advanced when they left us.
So it's a way for them to close the achievement gap.
Right.
They're seeing.
So they're looking to see whether or not using the way we did our data, the way Middletown did their data, and I think East Hartford is about to start in Waterbury also, because we've been asked to come in and consult with them, how we are doing the data study, whether or not that's something they could do statewide to track bigger
So
results.
more money will be funneled into your programs.
Yes. I mean, he did put in 1,000 new spots this year that got down into school readiness. So again, we're just waiting to see how that's allocated.
Just to add to that too, this covers the growth over time from 3 to 5 years old. One of the things that the district could really help us with is to follow that through to the 3rd grade, because this is what the initiative is, 3-year-old, 3 to 3, about reading by 3rd grade. And if the district could at some point track these same children that were starting at 3 years old to grade 3, we could really see more about the benefit of pre-K, and it would also inform us about what's working in K to 3 as well. So that's something that very few districts have that ability, and I understand because it's difficult because of a lot of things, but that's certainly something in the long run we would want to hope that the board would endorse that kind of work and follow that through. Thank you.
Yeah. You mentioned a matching grant. Is it dollar for dollar, or is there a cap on that amount?
I'm trying to think of that. Right now, they're funding us at, we have a small cash match from United Way. So they're giving us like $26,000. If we meet what they wanted for a match, which was, I think, 35,
Right.
they would bump us up to 40. So it's not exactly dollar for dollar, but it's, and if we had had a stronger cash match, we would have been more eligible for early literacy funding and some other things. So not having a strong cash match, we lost out on some funding because of that.
So just hypothetically and clearly thinking outside the box, if the board were to offer, the board would have $100,000 available to you, what would be your matching grant amount?
Well, Graustein would still only provide up to $40,000 right now. That's what they're providing per community at the highest level.
Highest level of the floor.
But we could use $100,000.
I'm not saying you can't or shouldn't.
We have tons of strategies. We have a
I just
community
have to ask.
plan that you can look at on our website. We have plans and strategies, and we have them all priced out. And
Right.
That's the purpose of community planning, so that, you know, when you have funding, you know what your priorities are for funding strategies and areas of village health.
But at the very minimum, that if we were to provide you 10 more, you would receive 15 more in grants plus other opportunities.
I think we have to get up to 35, so we need about 25 to get the additional, to get up to 40 from that.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions? Thank you so very much for the
These will be
presentation.
over here on the side
Yes.
table for you. Thank you very
so
much.
Thank you very much. The next part is the Alliance Bill. Are we using this at all for anything? I just checked my email, Bill, just so you know. We have been waiting anxiously for the application to be submitted to the commission for approval of the 1.7. I have a concern, and if you start hearing from parents, we did send out something the other night just to alert parents. You know, we have not hiring our kindergarten folks or doing any hiring until we have a commitment on the money. So parents are wondering what if, and that's legitimate. So we tried to explain to them what the situation is. My guess is we're going to advertise, depending on what happens, we will then implement the full-day kindergarten. But that's just one segment of the improvement process. I had a few minutes before to talk, and I don't want to go through that, but I'll let Bill do it. But this is not just a one-time funding. It is not supplementing the funds. It truly is conditional on one thing. Whatever it is that you're doing, whatever policy the board's implementing, whatever we're doing in the district, is it beginning to close the gap between students in SES, social economic status, ethnicity, all of it? Are we decreasing that gap in access to programs for kids? And that's what we have to demonstrate on 1.7. The other thing that I'm very, very concerned about is that the funding cliff at the end of the 5 years of funding, as I mentioned before, that we come up with a system to mitigate that as we implement these things, particularly if they work. These all have to tie back to my goals. You're going to see my goals this year tied into these. We had a goal matching program meeting this morning with all the curriculum folks. Everything's flowing succinctly with those goals and that whole accountability piece. So there's a real systemic approach to what we're doing. And we feel good about that. So why don't you go, Bill? Shut up.
I have a hard copy. I know you have it on your laptops, but there's a hard copy of the first page in case you'd like to make notes. This is a tricky application. We haven't gotten a formal document, as Sal said earlier, but we have the most recent draft, and I've been writing up against that. About 10 pages written so far. It'll probably be about a 20 to 30 page application by the time we're done. And the tricky part comes in this way. One of the tricky parts. It's a $1.7 million 1.695 application. If we put in the first item you see is all-day kindergarten, $350,000. Following year, it's about another $240,000. The year after that, it's about $400,000. We're now up to approximately $1 million. So out of the $1.7 million, we have now taken $1 million out of that overall funding stream. In 3 years, yes, in 3 years. Let me say that again. I know it's a little confusing. If you look at the front page where the top item says all-day kindergarten, by the way, for the folks who are interested, there's a handout up there. Phase 1 of the effort to provide universal full-day kindergarten, $350,000. Phase 2, all things working out as they should, will come the following year. That's about $240,000. And phase 3, the third year, to close out, so we'll have universal full-day K at that time, will be about $400,000. By the time we're done with that, it'll be approximately $1 million. And so we're left with about $700,000, and these are just gross numbers, of course, remaining to do all of our other initiatives. So if you look at that first page at the bottom, $1.7 million, all those initiatives add up to the 1.7. Next year, if our application is approved, because you have to write it for 5 years out with increasing specificity as the years roll. So this year, we have the most specificity. As soon as it's finished, of course, we'll send it out to the board. Next year's application will be very specific for year 2. The following year's application will be very specific for year 3. As we write, as we complete multiple years, the amount of money that's available for the rest of the initiatives is going to shrink because we're growing in all-day kindergarten. So we're going to have to look at and say, how are we going to continue something like our 3 new ESL teachers, or ELL teachers, for about $200,000. How are we going to deal with the instructional interventionists for about $350,000? So we're already up to roughly $550,000, and when you put PD on top of that, that brings you up roughly to the $700,000, and then the rest of the initiatives have no money up against them. So what we're talking about doing, what Sal was referencing before, and Joe has done a lot of really nice work with this, is that we would have a blended approach that would speak to, and we've pitched it at 50%, that we start to absorb at the general fund level some of these initiatives over time. It does 2 things for us. The first thing it does is it allows us to put forward a really strong application. It's very competitive. You heard Julian and the rest of the team talking about, organizations like to see a match. So if we turn around and say, we'll take your 1.7 and we'll put in 500,000, or we'll put in 800,000 out of the general fund or some other funding stream that is permanent, they're seeing this as a real partnership. So the document that Joe has given you, we can talk about this in a few minutes, starts to make the argument that this is really a partnership. So let me just very briefly walk you through that front page. I think we may have mentioned that Sal and I and Ed and Joe took a hike up to Hartford, and we spent the better part of the day with the commissioner and the staffers up there, Lal Farhan, who is in charge of this particular initiative, Michelle Rosado, the rest of the point people up there. And we started pitching our ideas to them. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? So on and so forth. We've also vetted this out tremendously. We've done it over and over and over again with everybody we could possibly grab hold of. And the items that you see on that front page, adding up to approximately 1.7 million, those are the items that we believe have the greatest amount of traction. When you see the application, the way it's being written, I'm putting a data set up against every single one of these items. National research says, and data points say, so it's very trackable, very measurable, and it's all research-based. The initial feedback that we've gotten is very favorable on this. We have Mike Wasta, Dr. Wasta, former superintendent in Bristol, now working for the State Department of Ed, and Kathleen Wedge, a long-term staffer at the State Department. Both those folks have been assigned to us for the past couple of years as our liaisons. We ran this by them, and they felt each item on this was very strong and a very competitive application. The piece that's disappointing to us, and we're not underlining that, punctuating it yet, because we're not sure, still very much a work in progress. We were hoping that other districts would turn around and say, you know, it's not worth the aggravation, all this accountability that comes with it, the application isn't there to write, all this kind of stuff, so we're just not going to waste our time. We were hoping that we would be able to pick up the money that they want to go after. That still may come to fruition, or part of it may. And as districts start to implement these plans, they may find something that doesn't cost them as much. State hates you to give money back. As soon as you do, it gets them jammed up with legislation and fiscal years and all that. So they tend to reallocate the money very quickly with a very, very quick turnaround time on it. So the second page that I didn't pass up, but you have it on your laptop, those are the kind of second tier items that we feel are at least somewhat marketable to the State Department of Ed. And those are the items that we would really like to pitch if we have a supplemental funding stream that does come in. The last thing I want to share with you is that we've really broken this out in a couple of primary ways. One is staff, all the kindergarten teachers, English teachers for English language learners, these interventionists, the SIOP coaches, etc. Those are bodies that we're bringing in which means there's an instant demand against the general fund once this 5-year period ends. And so that's why we're trying to segue nicely into this. The other big idea is that we're trying to grow the professional skills of our staff. The term that's used right now is talent development, talent acquisition development. So you'll see things like professional development, teacher evaluation. You'll see things like putting coaches in to help teachers get better at the work that they're doing. And the third piece is to free administrators up to be able to do more with teaching and learning and less with discipline and other related activities. So when you look at that counselor dean for high school at-risk students, it's remarkable. I don't have the exact number, but it's very close to 504 students had a remarkable number of absences, and of the 504, all of them had at least 19 unexcused absences this year. When you look at 500 kids with 19 unexcused, that's not counting excused absences. We have kids with 30, 40 absences. We need somebody in there working daily, not just disciplining kids, but really working on interventions that can help to mitigate that problem. In doing that, it frees up the assistant principals. We want them in classrooms more around that teacher evaluation piece, looking at instruction, working with coaches, helping teachers to plan at deeper levels, being reflective with folks. So those three big ideas are the approach that we've used with this. And again, I think we're going to find that we have a very, very competitive application. Initial feedback that we've gotten is that it's going to be well received in Hartford. Just before we have any questions, I'll just ask Joe if he would take the Alliance funding phase-in document that he passed out and just walk us through conceptually so you can have a graphic to go up against the thought about how we start to shift some of the burden to the local level.
One of the things we tried to identify in going through as Bill was articulating, basically get all the items to fit in as we continue to roll out all-day K and other initiatives will eventually wind up living inside the 1.7. So the document I just passed out, you'll see basically working from left to right, is the all-day K cost in the rollout for the three phases. So $350,000, which is currently in the $1.7 million proposal we'll send to the state of Connecticut. The next year will be $245,000, and $420,000 will complete the all-day K rollout. Using the $1.7 million in the grant funding, we basically looked at the grant and saw the true hard costs in the grant today. So the two pieces that are not directly linked to staffing, true people, are the PD teacher evaluation and the teacher enhancement. So we removed those out as being true, not hard costs in the exact 1.7. So that gave us a recurring amount of $1.4 million, just shy of 1.5. So as we continue to build the all-day K, obviously we're eventually going to, as Bill said, exceed the 1.7. So we have to begin to try to either reallocate or move money into the general fund. So the column all the way to the right is the 50% phase-in cost of the 1.7 into the general fund. So in the year 12 and 13, the grant would be fully subscribed at 1.7 for actual people, FTE counts, and 50% moving that money into general fund, about $740,000. And as that grows, the third year, once we implement the third phase of all-day K, it would be $420,000. The total allotment within that would be $2.1 million. So we take that 50% of that cost to be $862,000. And going forward, as the pieces pick up, the full amount would be $1 million. We'll pick up the full amount, half of the amount in the general fund of the 1.7. And then obviously a full phase-in to take all pieces of the 1.7, move them into the general fund, would obviously be whatever the grant finishes up at being, whatever our full allotment from the state is.
Thanks, Joe. If I could add to that, we had a very challenging time about 5-8 years ago when the early reading success grant was eliminated at the state level. It was approximately $1 million grant, and we lost 17 literacy specialists as a result of that. Everybody else was in the same boat everyone else was in the same boat that we were in when that money went away. We learned from that, and so this is a blended strategy so we don't hit that funding cliff and everything goes away. The second piece with this is we have the Priority School District grant as one example, and we've moved staff into grants like that because it's allowable. So the priority grant that allows us to pick up human beings, which are always the most costliest aspect of this. The final piece is that as we move through that phase in, getting up to about 1,072,000, that means we will have grown into that by looking at our general fund and how we allocate funds to it. And we'll still have a similar amount from the state at 1.7 that then goes away. And we have decisions to make at that point. Do we absorb the other 1.7 and remain whole? Or do we turn around and pare back our initiatives? It's our hope by the time we get there, things like all-day kindergarten will stay, but things like maybe the PSYOP coaching, we can phase out because we've coached our people as far as they need to be coached. Other basics, the core academic areas, we've coached our folks as far as they need to be coached. So some of these things we believe are time-bound and will eventually go away, and others will be permanent, I hate to say it this way, but for lack of a better term, permanent liabilities. Full-day kindergarten is something that we will absorb and maintain that as long as it's the board's pleasure to do so. Any questions?
Yes. And this is predicated on November for us next year too.
Yes.
Space. And let's not forget that. I mean, that's what would be going through my mind, if it's not yours. And what do we do? I mean, I'm really worried about that. I've got confidence in the community, everybody wants to make kindergarten, but you know, until it shows up in November to vote, we don't know. So the good news is, if we have to, and I don't want to be, we can change the grant. We've asked that question because we don't know. We try to find other ways to do it. I don't know, but we have the ability. The commissioners assured us that if something changes, we want to go in that direction. As long as we can demonstrate to them why, you know, we can reallocate the money. 1.7 may be there, we can spend it differently. Okay, so that's the other flying ointment here that we don't know about. This, we need 18 classrooms to make this work. We know that.
Mr. Jimmy?
Sorry, one more quick point. I apologize, Richard. The items that you see on that front page all have a data set put up against them, data points, meaning we have to demonstrate that we have a way of measuring this in the short term as well as the long term. So if you just start with all-day kindergarten, we can compare. There's something called a developmental reading assessment, the DRA, and an exit score of level 4. And we can look at the kids who have had all-day K and what their exit scores are compared to kids who have not. Actually, we do that anyway, and we find that there is a difference. We find a difference in the amount of the kids who attend more regularly who are in full-day kindergarten programs as opposed to half-day, and the socialization skills, which is a softer metric. But we can look at that because a lot of the full-day K programs allow for socialization, oral language development, kids just having a chance to talk to other kids, learning how to play together, work together. So the document that we'll send in will be easy on the board side to monitor because we're going to have very hard metrics up against each one of these cells, and we'll have it all articulated prior to submission of the grant in a few weeks.
Mr. Jimmy?
My own,
Could we speak into the, I can't hear, the mic, please?
In my own way of thinking, what we're looking to do is to say that at the end of 5 years, when the state funding will disappear, our school operating budget will be able to have absorbed these additional costs notwithstanding those elements that may, as you say, be time sensitive. That's correct? So we don't run into the same problem as we did with the Obama money where we have scrounge and maybe make do or do with programs. So each year we're going to be increasing our operating budget to the extent, so at the end of 5, we will increase it this amount of money.
And it may increase or we may eliminate other initiatives.
Right.
And keep a flat funding or something in that range. The other piece, though, that kind of begs the question is that while at a board level it's appropriate to look at finances sort of at this time of year in this economy, the other piece that is really punctuated is they expect results. So we want to see that achievement gap close. And if you remember from the Lighthouse training, we've done a very good job at the K-8 level, far surpassing what we should be doing as a district, but we haven't at the high school level. a variety of reasons. So a lot of these initiatives are pitched at the middle and high school levels. Our argument is you have to build capacity at least at the middle school if you want to leverage the high school. The SIOP coaching is to be heavily driven at the high school. The counseling dean is at the high school. One of the 3 new EL teachers is at the high school. The training is going to involve a lot of all the department heads at the high school, as well as the assistant principals, etc. So we're leveraging toward that top end, but also working to build long-term capacity from kindergarten up. So in order to see this thing really play out, it probably would take about 10 to 12 years. But in the short term, we should be able to see an uptick in student achievement where we have with our other initiatives.
To our conversation this afternoon, or just earlier, with regard to the finance meeting, I think it demonstrates the absolute need to have a multi-year projection of budget, since we have so many moving parts and so many changes, so that we could at least know where we're looking at, going ahead and then tweak it for any adjustments we may have. I think it makes more sense, good business sense, and better planning to this. So, thank you very much.
Sam?
I have 2 questions. One question is, why did you choose the SIOP training? And could you explain that a little bit?
Sure. That's a strange one, I know. SIOP stands for Sheltered Instruction Observation Protocol. It's sponsored by CAL, the Center for Applied Linguistics from California. It's considered to be, research-wise, probably the strongest of all the training programs to help teachers come around English language learners. Teachers who have gone through it, I went through it, all of us at Sal went through it, what you find is it's a very strong teaching in general. Anybody who's been a teacher will just say, Bob will go through and say, this is just good teaching. There's a second component that's a language acquisition goal. So every lesson that you present has good teaching and a language acquisition goal. And for kids who are not English language learners, it still has a language acquisition goal for new vocabulary terms. The districts that have been successful with this are the districts that put coaching in, as opposed to just saying, we're going to put the board through training and we're going to give you, a week's worth of training, go forth and conquer. And as we start to do it, we're finding, oh my gosh, I really don't remember what the trainer said. I'm not sure, this is a little bit different application than what we did in training. The SIOP coaches are folks who are full-time with us, that are experts in this and master teachers who can go shoulder to shoulder with our teachers. And as we listen to our teachers, they've said, the training makes sense to me. It's not that fancy, it's just good teaching. I get the language acquisition, but I'm really struggling with the youngster in my classroom who does not speak a word of English, or a youngster who has just come to this country and has interrupted schooling or very limited schooling. What do I do with the youngster like that? The coach at that point, and I want to go off on a pedagogical tangent, there are things like total physical response, TPR, where you kind of act it out almost for kids. Cognates, words that are from the Greek and Roman roots that are the same in, excellente, pretty much know what that means. Perfecto, we know those are cognates. And so the coach will help the teacher with these special linguistic strategies. And because of all these reasons, holistically, that's been the model across the country that's gotten the most traction.
And how long has that been around? Do you know?
I'd say at least 10 years, probably longer, but 10 in terms of on the national scene. And there are districts in Connecticut such as Wyndham. The entire district, every teacher in Wyndham was trained. It didn't work that well because they left out the coaching component. So that's why at times we will say, we'd like to have another school system walk point and we'll learn from their mistakes. Sometimes they do it with us. But in this case, it definitely, we saw where it makes a difference and has that coaching component.
Eddie, we also had UCLA come 4 years ago.
4 years ago.
Because we wanted an outside peek of what was going on instead of just internally. And this was one of their high recommendations to us. And that's how we seriously started getting more and more involved in the SIOP training. The SIOP training was paid by grants.
Title III, national entitlement, purpose of full cost.
But cost us instruction time because they had to be out of classroom. And our argument has been the length of the program and how long, teachers out of class is not something we really want to subscribe to very often. So this is a very high priority, so we met with them, we tried to bifurcate the training. They absolutely refused to. It's a guaranteed module. Some districts have taken it and they've bastardized it and created other, and that doesn't seem to be working. So we're staying fidelity to the model. It does require X amount of hours of training. That's the part that makes people a little uncomfortable. But the payoff is there if you have the coach. And that's what UCLA promoted, and that's another reason why we went down this path.
So the actual training is paid for, it's the coaching that we're asking funding for?
The
Is that
coaching
right?
has been paid for. I'm sorry, the training has been paid for. There hasn't been any real coaching. That has not been part of the budget. We couldn't afford it.
But I think Sandy brings up a critical point because item 4 in the application, they want to see, and it goes back to this blended funding stream, they want to see that it's not just their money.
Right.
So Title III puts in for all the training. We've put in, Title III has put in for some of the sub costs. We've put in for some of the sub costs. The state money puts in for the coaching costs. And you have a true blended stream of funding
That's
moving
good.
forward. The other thing, just very quickly, I'm sorry, Dr. Pasquarello said, Dr. Juan Lopez was the lead researcher from UCLA that came in and did the instructional audit on our district. And the two things that they said we needed to do, number one, more ELL staff, which we have in here, and PSYOP training. And so it's not just us in a vacuum kind of looking out and saying what do we think works. We actually brought experts in and they said these are the two big high leverage items.
Well, my question, could you speak, Mike?
How many people do we train?
How many people do we have trained?
We've trained at least 60 at the high school over the past couple of years. Some of the elementary schools, South Street, the entire faculty was trained. I believe Park Avenue, the entire faculty was trained. And a number of other schools have a number of teachers who have been trained in the model. I could actually get you hard numbers on that, but it's definitely something.
It might be in the app too. You may have to put it in the app.
Yeah, yeah.
Sam, I have one other question. On the instructional interventionists, you talk about with Title I schools. Now, I know that there's some requirements when we have Title I money. So is this going to reflect back on the fact that they're Title I schools? So if we decide to tweak those funds, it's going to have to stay in that Title I school environment?
Things have changed, sort of. Things have changed with Title I because Connecticut is in the waiver, got the waiver. It's leveraged Title I funds a little bit. At the national level, Title I has a language that says money can be, terrible way to say it, skimmed off the top for professional development use. When the waiver came through, supplemental educational services, SES, the after-school tutoring, which costs us about $250,000 a year, went away. We
Went to
take
that.
I'm sorry.
Went to that, and not the schools. Went to the SES.
Yes. The way the law read, if Ellsworth Avenue School, for example, which was one of the schools under MCLB that was identified, their Title I funds had to be pulled from them, given to families who wanted to go to external tutoring centers. They found that there was almost no difference whatsoever, and in many cases, actual regression on the part of the students that went to those supplemental tutoring centers. So that has gone away. Now we can keep the money and do our own tutoring, or we can reallocate some of that money and put it up against other initiatives such as these interventionists. The interventionist idea is they provide before school reading support, during school reading support with small groups of kids, and after school reading support. And I think the board is probably most familiar with the Moore Street School story. They went from being last place up to second place. A big part of their strategy was to use this interventionist. So we're exporting that and ramping it up across the district.
But only in Title I?
No, that's why I says a little bit sort of. The way the law reads, that 10% off the top can be used in any school in the district.
For that
Title I,
function.
not Title I, yes.
Okay, I guess what I want you to say is yes to this. No, what I see, and I really hope that I do see this,
is that most of what we've geared, to me, including full-day kindergarten, is to address those populations that we are failing or presumed to be failing based on the types of testing that Connecticut and No Child Left Behind forced us to use to assess. Each element here is to go toward that and to enhance our effect with those populations. Is that correct?
Capital Y, yes.
Thank you.
A little tiny sidebar. If you'll see some of us do something like this. The way the law reads, increase student achievement from all students, those populations, as well as every other child. Close all achievement gaps. That speaks directly to your issue. And this is who's going to make that happen. It's change the adult behavior as opposed to getting rid of our current kids and getting a new crop of kids. So it's designed to do both with a heavy, heavy, heavy emphasis on target populations of youngsters who are underachieving or not achieving at all.
Okay.
Mr. Jefferson?
I was under the impression that there's a problem that the application hasn't,
Supposed to. I'm sorry.
and
The application
I was
was
wondering-
to be in on here Friday of last week.
And we have to have it in by,
Well, we had hoped to have it in this week for we put in for an early review. But we can't even get them, we've sent this material off to them just for a preview because of meeting that. But it has to be expanded out with all the accountability pieces. That's what we're waiting for. That has not come to us yet, as of right now.
and you have to have the application in by as a set date, or,
Yes, and that's why, let me just segue
You know,
into
the day I was-
that's one of the things I'm asking you to do is that, given if these concepts are good and we put them together and the app comes in, we'll work on completing the app to Bill and his group, and then we have to sign it and then have them go in. Otherwise, we have to call board meetings and do all that stuff. So as soon as they come in, we'll finish it, sign it, send you guys a copy, and get it right up to the commissioner so he can review. I asked if he would review just even the kindergarten piece. If he would buy into that where we could hire that one, then that would go a long ways for us. So I don't know if they came back and they didn't like that.
What we're writing right now is the application that's on my computer is a phantom application. I just took and cut and paste from the most recent application what it looked like, because they won't change it that much. And then when the online digital application comes, I can just take and recut and paste it into that application. So it should be a very quick turnaround process for us. The problem is there have been changes, and we don't know what those are. And until it gets off the commissioner's desk and online, I could be writing up against something that no longer exists.
We did one of Ed's moves. We nudged with the Secretary of State office. We know her, and she went in and was on his commissioner's desk on Monday. And we thought we'd get it Monday night, and here it is Wednesday. So I think with Bill, my worry is that what's changing? I don't know.
Could be the increase in the allotment of the 1 side.
Are you dreaming again?
This is just water.
Sam?
So are we talking about just the first page of this?
At this
Because
point,
now this is a whole different ballgame with financial commitment on our end. So the second tier is sort of on the back burner at the moment?
Exactly, it's on hold. I will tell you that one item on the back, it really got a tremendous amount of traction from our principals, our elementary principals, and that's the third line from the bottom. It says 6 math specialists. We have a full-time reading specialist in each elementary school, so we have 13 of them. We have 7 math specialists, and for the most part, they're shared between 2 schools. And the reason that this became such a high priority is that the way we're held accountable now is changing. The way the Connecticut Mastery Test and the CAP test, it goes below basic, basic, proficient, which used to be the NCLB bar, goal, and advanced. Goal is now the Connecticut State Department of Education bar. So where we always did very well mathematically, we're still not hitting the goal the way we want to. And the principal said, I need a full-time person in my building every day, working with my teachers, driving this, and they're embedded professional developers. And right now, the state thinks it's a great idea. They're just saying that if you want to put that $425,000 in, you're gonna have to pull something else out, like full-day kindergarten. And we're saying, and we talked to the principal, and they said, no, pick full-day K first.
But if I may, if the board understands, and I believe that you do, the purposeful planning that we're doing, as we build this multi-year budget that we're talking about, this ought to be one of the conversations that's away from dollar and cents, but more in the instructional piece. And if this is something that's a high priority, then it's something we maybe could phase in over a period of time, because it does have a tremendous impact for the youngsters. And mathematics is an area, quite frankly, our elementary teachers are at least trained in. Let's go, you know, we've been dealing, now, along with this is dealing with university, but we know what's been up with those folks. We can control what we're doing. So that's another thing why we did this planning, we could put on and say, is this something we want to go to, and figure out whether we want to give more money to readiness, we want to give more money here. It's all good stuff that we could do over time.
Mr. Fortenberg?
Yes, Dr. Glass. On the counselor dean,
Yes.
if my notes are correct, we have 504 kids in the high school that don't come to school on a regular basis.
We have 504 kids, 504 students who have at least 19 unexcused absences, meaning they know this, doctors know, parents know, they would just go on. And I'm sorry, here. Danbury High School is the largest high school in the state, although Danbury is the seventh largest city in Connecticut. The district is fortunate that we do not experience many of the challenges that our larger counterparts experience. This is from the application grant. However, there is one area that is of great concern, specifically of the 2,836 students at Danbury High School. As of this past June, 504 of these students had 19 or more unexcused absences. We have many more students having 5, 10 absences, or even unexcused, but that becomes the target population. So if you notice the 2-page document, there's a counselor dean on page 1, and on the second page there's another counselor dean. And we felt that we were able to get some supplemental funding. That's the one, have 2 people actually up there. It doesn't look like we can do that, but at least this will give us a shot. As crazy as it sounds, what we would say to this individual is those 500 kids become your target population. What kind of dent can you make in 500 kids? We're not really sure about that.
Well, I guess that's my question. What, how does one guy get 500 kids to come to school that aren't coming to school now?
We would, well, it's like, first of all, it says counselor dean, and that means we have a lot of counselors. What we need to happen is the interventions that, particularly as the kids transition high school to freshmen, they're our largest population, and the unclassified 10th graders who just, when they're 11th and 12th grade, the accountability for kids being in school, doing their work is much higher. So it's those kids that we think we need to help. So if we couldn't get the 2, we don't think we can. This person, they be monitoring, making sure that notes are going home, there's follow-up, they're not falling between the cracks. This group here, this person probably would work more with the freshman students. For the secondary group, the unclassified upperclassmen, we have they'd be dedicated to a counselor who's up there now. So they would be tangentially working with this person, so we'd have to work out those details. We want to focus on these youngsters, and that's where we have the gap. Junior, senior, those kids growing up there a heck of a lot more time. Freshmen, still just not home yet. These people aren't serious about me being around. And then, but the bottom line, what we can't lose sight of, assistant principals are not pencil pushers, and they're not just phone call makers. We want them in the classroom supporting teachers. That's why we're investing in the training. That's why they're in the development process. This should free them up, we believe, to put them into the classroom more often, instead of being pulled out to go on Sal, who's been running around and hasn't shown up for 9 years. And that's the kind of stuff that happens. So we're hoping that this helps. More would help more, but in fact, there were more in there. We just couldn't. I couldn't give another person to this. It was just there's too many needs.
Just a technical question. The SIOP coaches, does the SIOP training protocol include an additional and advanced training for people to be coaches?
That's a great question. No, not per se. However, it goes back to that blended funding stream. Something we wrote in one this year was a math science partnership grant. And through the math science partnership grant, the MSP grant, we put in a cognitive coaching model, which is a national model that comes out of California. Our Acosta, well-known educational researcher, and we trained about 30 of our folks in that model. We could use the cognitive coaching model to work on the coaching skills of the coaches, and then use the SciOp training to make sure that they really were masterful with the SciOp content.
Mr. Janelle?
I'll speak loud. On page, your two exhibits where you have the 1.7 and the additional 600,000, if we just use a hypothetical example, in exhibit where you have the 1.7, let's say the items that we earmarked for PD, teacher eval and PD enhancement is for 2 years, that we would need that initial start off, those costs would phase out in years 3, 4, and 5, we'd be saving $250,000. You could utilize some of that money, therefore, to bring in, if you felt the 6th math specialists were necessary, to start phasing that in at that particular point, and then just, as usual, have to worry about where to get the rest of the funding. Would that be another way to manipulate these numbers and utilize the funds?
What you just articulated, Richard, is the underlying thinking of the State Department of Ed. They were hoping that districts would come in, and we freeze this in a very rich, robust economy or an affluent community where buying staff is not a challenge. They were hoping that the softer items, such as training itself, would make up the bulk of, in our case, 1.7. So at the end of 5 years, you built capacity, you trained everybody, we all know how to do it, and the money goes away and we're good. In a situation like ours, where we haven't had the funding over time, we've actually been laying people off and cutting central office, cutting administrators, so on and so forth, cutting the literacy specialists. Our argument to the commissioner, and we're not alone, most of the districts, I'd venture to say all the districts are making the same argument, that we've been so under-resourced for so long, we're going to have to buy people with this. And the state gets that, and they understand that that's our big challenge. We were talking to a fellow named Jonathan Gergel, who has a relative in his room tonight, who's been brought in from New York to help work, develop this model. And we said, Jonathan, our concern is at the end of 5 years, we have a funding cliff. And he said, that's our concern as well. And then Sal talked to him and said the same thing. That's our concern, Sal. You guys are reiterating what we're worried about. So we're trying to build in a blended initiative, so some of it will phase out and we can pick up other things, and some of it will remain static. And that's where Joe's piece comes in, where we start to absorb some. And by the way, it doesn't have to all be from the general fund. We're looking at this as a worst case scenario, but we may be able to take the priority grant or something, or it falls out from that and put it back in there. We're very good at deferring to outside sources.
I find it hard that the state would have a thought process, as you mentioned, when the state of Connecticut has the largest achievement gap. When we have areas such as Hartford, Bridgeport, and Danbury, and others economically, that how they could think that the achievement gap would shrink just by professional development.
Right. That was the other big argument. The other thing that you bring up when you talk about the big urbans, we were this close to not being eligible. It's kind of it's almost a catch-22 for us. Our performance has been so strong that we only made it by 1 point. If we had been 1 point stronger, we would not have been eligible for this, be out of the pool. So we want to figure out how we can stay in the pool over the 5 years and we improve it. Right? So you guys go away.
Have Ed worked the numbers?
Did you talk about how they're going to assess the students and the achievement? Has that changed at all?
Yes, it's a dramatic change.
You mean the new law standing,
Well,
or this part?
For this part, for how we're going to. Okay.
Oh, let me see if I can.
Briefly.
Let me see if I can put them both together. There's something called NESBAC. It's Smarter Balance Assessment Consortium. They're eliminating the Connecticut Mastery Test, they're eliminating the CAP test. They're going to this new 12-week cycle that's all digital. And kids will no longer have to all take the test at the same time. Very different. And you could, Sandy, you and I could sit side by side, and you could look at my screen, I could look at yours, it wouldn't matter. Because they're drawing from this massive national question bank. Your questions will be different than mine. to measure a standard, there might be 100 different items that would measure that. The machines will pull out different standards and keep pacing with us. So that's big idea number one, that will change. And idea number two, some of this won't change in that we have TDEC, that is our, by statute, it's our curriculum arm of the Board of Education. We have a monitoring protocol. We have the instructional review we spoke about this year, where we're actually having central office visit every single classroom in the school with a special instrument. So we're going to be blending both of those for the accountability factors. There's more accountability with this initiative than we've ever had before, even with NCLB.
Are there any other questions? Then I thank you, Dr. Glass, and thank you, Jeff.
Thank you very much.
I need a motion for action item A.
That the Board of Education extend the contract of the Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Sal Pascarello, one additional year through 2015 with a 2% increase in salary or annuity for the 2012-2013 school year.
Second. The motion was made by Kathy, seconded by Mrs. Alberts. Are there any questions? Yes, Mr. Alderman.
Is it possible to break those two into two separate votes, one to extend the contract and one for the salary increase?
We will have to make an amendment to the motion.
There's a process you have to go
We
through.
have to make an amendment.
There's willingness to do that, and then you have to vote to do the amendments. It's a two-step process.
Two-step process, how? By making one motion? In other words, by moving that the Board of Education extend the contract of the Superintendent of Schools, Sal Pascarello, one additional year
Yes.
through 2015.
That would be.
And then that would be one motion.
Right, and then you'd have to, first you'd have to receive you'd have to make, that would be the first question, and then the board would have to vote whether or not they want to present that question. Once you present that question, then you vote on the motion.
We got to
I couldn't hear the motion, and that was a possible motion. Nobody's talking into the microphone.
Ask everyone, please.
That's what you'd have to do.
Should I start again?
Do we have to withdraw the motion? Don't we have to withdraw the motion that was just made? Says it was seconded?
The motion was seconded, and you have it for discussion. So at this point, you'd have to vote to amend the motion. That would be the first vote that you'd have to do. If there's a vote to amend the motion, then if that's acknowledged and passed by the board, then you would make the motion for the amendment, and then you'd have to pass the amendment. So that you can separate, but it has to be by a process. Am I correct?
Yes.
So that's what you have to do.
So my question would be, is there a motion to amend the original motion?
I'll make a motion to amend the original motion.
The motion has been moved and second to amend the first motion. I will do a count. Ms. Alberts? There's an amendment? She said no. Phyllis?
Yes.
Yes.
No?
Kathy?
No.
Mr. Janelle?
No.
Mr. Taversack?
No way.
So we have three,
Cooper, can we do that? Can I hear that one more time, please?
Mrs. Alberts, are you in favor of the amendment? Yes or no?
No.
No. Phyllis, no. Mr. Falkenthal?
Yes.
Yes. Shirley?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Hawley?
No?
No?
Mrs. Cooper?
No.
Now you can ask me.
Kathy?
No.
Parliamentary procedures. Mr. Janelle?
No.
Mr. Taversack?
No?
Mrs. Steichen?
Yes.
Okay.
3 yeses, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 noes.
So the motion is. So
The
now,
original motion.
no, and now there's a vote on the original motion. Ms. Alberts?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Carly?
Yes?
Yes.
Mr. Janelli?
Yes.
Mr. Tavasek?
Yes.
Mrs. Steichen?
No.
Mrs. Cooper?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Lieutenant John Brown with the Danbury Police Department, and I'm in charge of the Community Policing Unit. I'd like to offer you some crime prevention tips today, specifically on the topic of burglary prevention. There are 3 things that you can do to help your property, either commercial or residential property, and to prevent it from becoming a victim of a burglary. And they are light, time, and noise. You should always be sure that your property has sufficient lighting to deter your residents or business from becoming a victim of a burglary. Light. Be sure that the exterior portion of your residence or business has plenty of and sufficient lighting that illuminates your property from up to 50 feet away. Consider installing variable timers on the interior portion of your business or residence, and also consider trimming shrubs and trees that would help conceal a burglar during the process of a burglary. Time. Consider installing deadbolt locks with keys on all doors which contain glass. We want to make it more time consuming for the burglar to make entry into your residence or business. Noise. Consider installing a burglar alarm which would notify your neighbors of a burglar's presence. You should also consider getting a dog, which would also create a disturbance should an unknown person enter your residence. Also report any acts of suspicious activity to the Danbury Police Department at 203-797-4611. Thank you.